Hello, good morning. Hoping everyone is really fine. Hopefully you've had a good week since we last had a discussion or a lesson. Remember the last time we looked at locomotion in birds, and we saw that birds can locomote or can move in 3 different ways. Could be by flapping, could be by gliding, or could be by soaring. But in all, they locomote by flying, but those that can't fly locomote by walking. Then we left an assignment, we left a task to you to look out for the similarities and differences between flight in birds and flight in insects, like we had earlier seen. So I want to assume that we got the similarities and differences. If not, please do look out for them. So today we move ahead and look at feathers. Remember we said that locomotion in birds, among the adaptations, particularly adaptations of birds for flight, we saw that they have a type of feather that we called the quill feathers. Quill feathers are important in bringing about flight. But birds don't have only quill feathers. There are many other types of feathers that we find on the body of a bird. If you have seen feathers being plucked off a hen at home, when they are plucked off, you will see different kinds, different types of feathers. Remember, a hen is a bird. Therefore, it has a variety of feathers, just like we can see in our visual there. We have them found in different parts of the body of the bird, just like we are going to see in our session today of feathers. Now, before we move to the different types of feathers, remember we said that feathers are important to the bird. Last time, the only function that we focused on was flight. But we want to see today that feathers are not only used for flight, but a variety of functions. 1. These feathers that you see protect the body of the bird from physical, from mechanical damage, from abrasion, and even from direct sun rays, and even from rain. When you look at, I'll use a hen because it's one that we could be familiar with in our environment. When you look at a hen around, when it rains, that hen may not totally get soaked with water. Why? Because these feathers protect the body of that hen from rain, from direct rays of the sun, and even from physical abrasion. So that is the role of feathers. Feathers are also important in maintenance of a constant body temperature. How? Remember, birds maintain a constant body temperature despite the changing environmental temperature. Such organisms are what we call the homeothermic organisms. Homeothermic organisms are those that maintain a constant body temperature despite the changing environmental temperature. Compare them with the poikilothermic. Poikilothermic are those whose body temperature changes with that of the environment, of that of the surrounding. Now coming back, because birds are homeothermic, they maintain a constant body temperature. These feathers that you see, like we're going to see again in detail, they insulate the body of the bird By insulating the body of the bird, they reduce heat loss. In so doing, they bring about maintenance of a constant body temperature. Feathers are also used for flying from one place to another. Remember, these are particularly the quill feathers. Feathers are also used for camouflage to avoid predators. What is to camouflage? What do we mean when we talk of camouflage? Camouflage is the ability of an organism to be in an environment resembling its body color. Ability of an organism to be in an environment resembling its body color. In other words, the body appearance at that time resembles that of the environment. Commonly we say a chameleon camouflages. Why? Because if a chameleon is in an environment that is green, its body color will appear green. If it's in an environment that is brown, its body color will appear brown. Meaning the color of the body resembles that of the environment. That is what we call camouflaging. Equally, feathers enable birds to camouflage. It gives them an appearance resembling that of the environment in their habitat. And what is the importance of that? The predator will not be able to see the bird easily. In so doing, the bird is escaping predators. Hence, camouflage important because it enables the birds to avoid predators. Feathers are also important in courtship because they are used to attract the organisms of the opposite sex in birds. Now, later in reproduction, we shall see that birds exhibit what we call courtship dances. And in these courtship dances, they use their feathers. They use the feathers and display different patterns. In so doing, they attract those of the opposite sex. Hence, important in courtship. Then therefore sensation, sensitivity, bringing about sensitivity. Like, they are important because there is a way they direct sound waves. They direct the sound waves towards the ear of these birds. Remember, birds don't have the external ear, they have only the middle and the inner. So they direct these sound waves towards that middle ear. Hence, important in sensation. So those are the functions or the roles, the general roles of feathers to a bird. We now move to particular feathers and we see the roles of particular feathers. This now brings us to the types, and the four main types. We have what we call the quill feather, the quill feather, the contour feather, the down feather, and the phyloplumes. We are seeing a variety here, but the main ones that we talk of, the major ones, we talk of the quill feather, the contour feathers, the down feathers, and the phyloplumes. So those are the four major types of feathers. We now move on and we look at each at a time. We begin by looking at the quill feather. The quill feather, what does it look like? I'm sure we have seen such a feather before. Alternatively, when we look at our first visual that we have seen, when we observe the feather which is labeled wing and another that is labeled tail, those are quill feathers. Because we are going to see the position, the location of the quill feather, and we shall talk of the wings and the tail. Therefore, the quill feather appearing like that has particular characteristics. 1. When we look at that feather, before we go into the characteristics, look at its structure from that image. It has different parts. There is a part which we are calling the quill at the base. But at the tip of the quill, we have what we call the inferior umbilicus. It's like an opening, inferior umbilicus. But then above it, along the quill, there is another part called the after shaft. Now the point where the after shaft originates is known as the superior umbilicus. The superior umbilicus. It's also like a hole. Remember we've said the inferior umbilicus and the superior umbilicus, they are like holes, openings. Now at the point where we have the superior umbilicus, we also have the after shaft. The after shaft, they are like hairs at that point. Then moving forward to the upper part, it has a part which you are calling the vein. That whole part above the quill is called the vein. Now the vein, in the middle of the vein, is a structure which is continuous to the quill, and that structure tapers towards the tip. In other words, it becomes narrow towards the tip. We call that one the rachis. We call it the rachis. However, attached to the rachis are barbs. The barbs, meaning the vein is made up of the rachis and barbs. Below the vein is the quill, which has the inferior umbilicus and the superior umbilicus. At the point of the superior umbilicus, that is where we have what we call the after shaft. Now, moving on to see the characteristics of the quill feather.